and I would imagine some of your cards are here. So hopefully we can, I think I technically could limit you to 2 minutes, but our afternoon agenda is a little light, so I'm going to give you the full 3 minutes. However, let me say that I love your energy. I understand your passion. I've talked with, I think, almost all of you. And if we can maintain some kind of an order here so we can actually get through your cards, we would appreciate that. Thank you so much for your cooperation. The first order of business is actually the report out from closed session.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The board met in closed session on the items on the published agenda. Item number 34 has been moved to September 22nd. Item number 35, existing litigation, County of Sonoma successor agency to the Sonoma County Community Redevelopment Agency versus Mato Santos. The board agreed to a settlement agreement that was just ratified by the state of California, and the essential terms of the settlement are as follows. The Department of Finance agrees to recognize the Roseland Village and Highway 12 agreements between the successor agency and the county as valid enforceable obligations under the Dissolution Act, which allows redevelopment money to be used for the Roseland Village and Highway 12 revitalization projects. The Department of Finance also agrees to recalculate the amount paid by the successor agency in July 2012 under the assumption that the two agreements are enforceable obligations, and to allow the successor agency to recover $349,861 from future redevelopment property tax trust fund payments. In addition, the Department of Finance agrees to allow the successor agency to use all cash on hand previously earmarked for Highway 12 and Roseland Village projects to pay obligations under those agreements starting in January 1st, 2016. And finally, the successor agency agrees to dismiss a second lawsuit against the Department of Finance relating to the clawback and use of cash issues, thus giving up its right to seek attorney's fees. So very favorable settlement on behalf of the county. Item number, Roseland and Highway 12. Item number 36, conference with labor negotiators, Christina Kramer, Carol Allen, and Richard Bolanos regarding negotiations with all bargaining units. Direction was given to labor negotiators. And item number 37, initiation of litigation regarding the Dry Creek Rancheria Band of Pomo Indians. There is no reportable action. Direction given to council and staff. And item number 37A, the Board of Directors of the Water Agency, considering anticipated litigation and initiation of litigation. There is no reportable action. And that concludes the closed session report.
Thank you. And as Mr. DeWitt noted, it's been a long time coming, and we are so grateful to have County Council and Community Development Commission and the board totally in support of maintaining our enforceable obligations in our redevelopment areas. And we prevailed in court, in both levels of court, and we were able to come to a successful negotiated settlement with the state so that we can move forward with completing those projects in Roseland, Monterey, and Highway 12. This is benefiting so many people in Sonoma County, so we're so grateful that this has come to a successful completion. Now it is time for public comment, and thank you so much for being here. And as I probably have about 30 cards now, so it'll take us a good hour to get through this. If we can be respectful to the speakers and try to move through it, listen to you as quickly as we possibly can to respect your time, your message. We want to hear from you, and excited about hearing what you have to say. So the first card is from Dwayne DeWitt, followed by Mary Morrison.
Thank you, members of the board. My name is Dwayne DeWitt, and I'm from Roseland. And I came today to thank the members of the emergency services personnel from the county and the folks throughout Sonoma County who've been battling the fires and the hard work they did at the fire up in Lake County, which is now spreading into Sonoma County. And I just wanted to basically point out that it's a good thing you folks are preparing ahead of time. I saw on the agenda you've made a lot of declarations. So I'd like you to go one step further today, ahead of time if you will, and also declare a public health emergency, especially to address the lack of housing that's going to be occurring. We've already got one locally here, but it's going to worsen now. I was at Vet Connect this morning and there were a dozen veterans there who were looking for housing, and one of my good friends from when I was a youngster, who also happened to serve in the military at the same time as myself, lost his house in the Cobb fire. He's in a hotel in Windsor. That might just last for a short time, and it's going to take a long time to rebuild all those houses that have been lost. There's thousands upon thousands of people in need, and the problems are going to worsen. So I would ask you, because you do have an effort afoot with the Health Action Sonoma County, the housing working group from that group has been working on some ideas about housing. If you folks could actually take the step and say, we declare that this is something so serious that it warrants being considered a public health emergency. The lack of housing seriously affects people's health. And this is just going to be getting worse. And I know you folks are a pretty forward-looking bunch now, and I hope that you'll be able to take this into consideration and maybe make that step. It's going to take years to build the housing that you're proposing over in Roseland, and the housing that has been gotten some funding from the city for veterans. It takes between 4 to 7 years to get a housing project off the ground in Santa Rosa due to the way planning works. But you folks own a lot of properties. You own Los Gillicos School, you own over there at the Sonoma Developmental Center, and you got Sutter Hospital. I used to work at that hospital. Those rooms could be used for people right now. All you got to do is get a veterans crew in there to clean it up. We know how to do that stuff. And let us get to work on this and house the people that need this in these dire times. So give it a thought, and also be thinking about these folks that need more money. I guess that's going to come up too.
Mary Morrison, followed by Michelle Miller, followed by Maria Holstrom.
Congress, no more lying about 9/11. California's 2nd Congressional District top public servant Jared Huffman, who wants John Jenkel to cease further contact. Instead of dismissing this missive as threatening, as you have past issues of abuse news, please perform your duty to me and other constituents that you are under contract with an oath of office to stand on the floor of the world's most powerful legislative body, the House of Representatives and Congress of our $18,150 billion dysfunctional Union of States, and help the 9/11 Campaign end 14 years of lying about 9/11, told by our senior senator from California, Dianne Feinstein. She is the top operative in Congress for California's phantom governor and top intended 9/11 benefactor, wizard of deception, Willie Brown. Senator Feinstein is one of 81 traitors in the 114th Congress who, along with Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, John Boehner, John Kerry, Mitch McConnell, Harry Reid, and Charles Schumer, in the 107th Congress, authorized Enron puppet President 9/11 attempted wife killer George W. Bush to use the armed forces of the United States as he determines to be necessary under Section 3A of Public Betraying Martial Law 107-243 in order to A, cover up the 2,982 murders that he caused by leaving his wife to be a sitting duck in the White House for 9/11, and B, to maintain mass murder and world terrorism for fascist gain in unconstitutional wars of congressional choice and ever necessity. Since the last 6 constitutional United States wars in World War II, we the people have suffered 28 unconstitutional wars that have served the highest level of organized crime at our expense. You are under contract and oath of office to prevent unconstitutional wars. Your failure to do so by diminishing this missive as threatening gives aid and comfort to enemies of our $224.75 billion congressionally embezzled state of 750 congressionally lynched, God-fearing, dead Californians, which is treason against this state. He should be sentenced by a California court of constitutional law to publicly name John Jenkel's 9/11 memorial monument. George W. Bush caused 2,982 unplanned murders on 9/11. Number one, our president skipped town on September 10, 2001, and flew in Air Force One to Florida to play poker with his brother Jeb. The first thing the governor of Florida asked his treacherous brother probably was, "Where's Laura?" Number two, bad boy President Bush purposefully left our First Lady to be sitting duck in the White House to face certain death the next morning, probably with the aid of Hoover fellow first companion Condoleezza Rice, to be a victim of the Enron-sponsored Al-Qaeda martyrdom battalion.
Thank you. Michelle Miller, followed by Maria Holstrom.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. Bad boy, born-again Bush purposely left our First Lady to be a sitting duck in the White House to face certain death the next morning, probably with the aid of Hoover fellow first companion Condoleezza Rice, to be a victim of the Enron-sponsored Al-Qaeda martyrdom battalion suicide bomber attack planned by BBB, Bush's top sponsor, desperate Enron builder Ken Lay, with on-time battalion hijacked United Airlines Flight 93, crashing into the West Wing and painlessly taking out energy czar Dick Cheney and his anti-Enron VP staff from Halliburton in order to gain paradise and 72 virgins for all 25 battalion goons that had hijacked 6, not 4, domestic airliners on 9/11. Don't forget Canada, folks. 3, Brother Jeb Bush knew that former librarian Laura Bush had been booked for weeks to be in Sarasota, Florida at the MSC Booker Elementary School on September 11th, 2007 to launch her, excuse me? 2001. I'm very sorry, 2001 to launch her Read, Don't Watch campaign. Florida Governor Jeb probably helped arrange it. Number 4, in order to save lovely librarian Laura from her husband's treachery and prevent uncontrollable scandal, Flight 93 had to be shot down. No way could 25 Enron-sponsored Saudi misfits be talked out of gaining paradise and 72 virgins. NORAD had been ordered by Secretary of Offense Rumsfeld to selectively stand down from intercepting 4 of 6 hijacked domestic airliners. Number 5, once Flight 93 took off from Newark, there was no sure way to track it in order to shoot it down. Consequently, Flight 93 was held on the Newark tarmac for 41 minutes until top Enron speculator Warren Buffett could get one of his fat little funny-tailed private net jets to track the doomed flight so that USAF Major Rick Gibney could locate it and shoot it down with a Sidewinder missile on Bumbler Bush's order. This 41 minutes delay of the main attack on 9/11 allowed office workers to enter targets that Ken Lay had planned to be empty. Consequently, there were 2,982 unplanned murders on 9/11, as detailed on pages 18 to 20 of this missive. What 9/11 was all about. Number 6, the targets of Ken Lay's plan for 9/11 were United States Energy Czar Dick Cheney and VP staff from Enron's competitor Halliburton. Cheney and gang were blocking Operation Essential Harvest, exposed by 2013 suicide victim of Michael C.
Maria
Rupert.
Holstrom,
Thank
followed
you.
by Roxanne Snyder.
Good afternoon. Hope everybody's doing good. What 9/11 was all about. The targets, number 6, the targets of Ken Lay's plan for 9/11 were the United States Energy Czar Dick Cheney and VP staff from Enron's competitor Halliburton. Cheney and gang were blocking Operation Essential Harvest, exposed by 2013 suicide victim of suicide Michael C. Rupert on page 26. To build an energy pipeline across Afghanistan to deliver Turkmenistan natural gas to India and communist China, for manufacturing more Macy's merchandise, Walmart widgets, and CVS perfume with cheap slave labor, and then ship them under the Golden Gate Bridge for delivery to certain shopping centers and downtown stores, as top intended 9/11 benefactor Willie Brown determines to be necessary. Number 7, had our President and First Lady flown down to Florida on September 10th, 2001, and Czar Cheney been removed the next day, as Ken Lay had planned for 2 years, boss dim wizard of deception Willie Brown would have been appointed vice president by the totally deceived Democratic controlled organized crime serving the United States Senate. The term "da" means Willie Brown stained. Number 8, wizard of deception Willie. Number 2, operative in Congress. Dianne Feinstein probably would not have been re-elected in 2012. If Sonoma County Sheriff's Coroner Steve Freitas had not covered up the snuff killing of Charlotte Ann Molinari by her desperate pedophile father, John Charles Molinari, Brown machine operative, in order to secure the 2012 re-election of Communist China's doll, Senator Dianne. A, in order to continue mass murder and world terrorism under Constitution according Section 3 A of Martial Law 107-243, as Grand Intimidator Willie Brown, the Phantom Governor of California, determines to be necessary. For his brown, green, gay cheese, wine, religion, undeclared war and sex, organized crime machine, and 1% protection racket by using the armed forces of the United States, which includes top local dirty public Sheriff Coroner Freitas.
Thank you. Roxanne Snyder.
In order to
followed by Chris Gibbons.
Continuing with John Jenkel's document, Congressman Huffman helped expose 2,982 unplanned murders during the Bad Boy, Born-Again Bush-botched Enron sponsored and Ken Lay planned organized crimes on 9/11. The snuff killing of 15-year-old Charlotte Molinari by a fraternal pedophile to ensure the re-election of Dianne Feinstein, the murder of 13-year-old Andy Lopez by an Iraq AUMF-PTSD deputy sheriff, and 3 unreasonable seizures of John Jenkel's horse farm and 3 weeks Sonoma County Sheriff's sales to the same sole bidder for pennies on the dollar in order to destroy him and hide his work. I do not have a permit issue. I have a massive crime and corruption issue. Stop hiding the truth for domestic enemies. You are committing treason. The above photo shows the Enron puppet George W. Bush controlled demolition of the South Tower by WTC boss Larry Silverstein and financier Lloyd Goldman on 9/11, with over 1,000 unplanned occupants inside. I'm sure you all familiar with what this looks like. With all this experience. Since October 16, 2002, these mass murders have been covered up by lies, quote, as he determines to be necessary, end quote, under Section 3A of Public Betraying Martial Law 107-243, authorized by 373 Constitution aborting and police state creating traitors in the 107th Congress, including Hillary Clinton, Dianne Feinstein, Joe Biden, John Boehner, Mitch McConnell, Harry Reid, and Chuck Schumer. Does Your Honor serve these traitors or we, the betrayed people? One, the conspiracy that hides controlled demolitions of the Twin Towers on 9/11 with 2,749 unplanned office workers inside is impossible to maintain in the internet age. 641 billion of we, the congressionally betrayed people.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris Gibbons, followed by Richard Hannon.
One, the conspiracy that hides controlled demolitions of the Twin Towers on 9/11, 2,749 unplanned office workers inside, is impossible to maintain in the internet age. $641 billion of we congressionally betrayed people's $18,156 billion national blood debt was squandered to fund the Department of Homeland False Security, to hide organized crime on 9/11 in favor of domestic enemies like those who live in the Ball and Winery, LP, and occupy half of Mr. Jenkel's horse farm along Gravenstein Highway. Two, that means Willie Brown staying. It is impossible for Wizard of Deception Willie to hide controlled demolitions that murdered 2,749 people, or the U.S. Air Force attack on the Pentagon. Top intended 9/11 benefactor, Grand Intimidator Willie and his brown-green gay Chinese wine, undeclared war, religion, gambling, and sex organized crime in 1% protection racket are sinking in Burton Trust mud because of their abuse of Mr. Jenkel in the 9/11 Truth Campaign that he sponsored. J.P. Morgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimone and Lafayette attorneys tried to destroy him by stealing his inheritance, but could not prevail in court of constitutional law. 3. If the Department of Homeland False Security, the machine, and J.P. Morgan Chase could not beat him, nobody can. The County of Sonoma must quit claim his criminally seized 8 3/4 acres back to him or face civil damages, and 3 supervisors will face treason charges. Okay. FEMA executive summary. Following the September 11, 2001 attacks on New York City's World Trade Center, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, and the Structural Engineering Institute of the American Society of Civil Engineers, in association with New York City and several other federal agencies and professional organizations, deployed a team of civil, structural, and fire protection engineers to study the performance of buildings at the World Trade Center site. The events following the attacks in New York City were among the worst building disasters in history. As each tower was struck, extensive structural damage, including localized collapse, occurred at several floor levels, directly impacted by the aircraft. Despite the massive localized damage, each structure remained standing. However, as each aircraft impacted a building, jet fuel on board ignited. Part of this fuel immediately burned off in the large fireballs that erupted at the impact floors. Remaining fuel flowed across the floors and down elevator and utility shafts, igniting intense fires throughout the upper portions of the building.
Thank you. Richard Hannon, followed by John Jenkel.
Good afternoon. I'll continue with Chris. Start with what? I don't see that. FAA employee hijacked jets almost collided en route. Portland Press Herald, Portland, Maine. Thursday, September 13, 2001. FAA employee hijacked jets almost collided en route. By the Associated Press. Nausea, New Hampshire. The 2 hijacked jets that demolished the World Trade Center nearly crashed into each other while heading to their target, according to a Federal Aviation Administration employee at a regional control center. The 2 aircraft got too close to each other down by Stewart International Airport in New Windsor, New York. About 55 miles north of New York City, the employee told the Telegraph of Nausea It was clear how close they got after they left Boston 15 minutes apart Tuesday morning, both headed for Los Angeles. Hijackers gained control of American Airlines Flight 11 around Gardner, Massachusetts, said the employee, who spoke on condition of immunity. Gardner is about 45 miles northwest of Boston. America was just flying around doing what it wanted, the employee said, of the jet's approach to New York. United Airlines Flight 175 remained in the hands of its pilots until it reached Albany, New York, the employee said. The Nazi controllers have learned through discussions with other controllers that the F-16 fighter stayed in hot pursuit of another hijacked commercial airline until it crashed in Pennsylvania, the employee said. Although controllers don't have complete details of the Air Force's chase of the Boeing 757, they have learned the F-16 made 360-degree turns to remain close to the commercial jet, the employee said. He must have seen the whole thing, the employee said of the F-16's pilot view of United Flight 93's crash near Pittsburgh. The flight took off from Newark Airport for San Francisco, and authorities say the hijackers were headed for another target in Washington, D.C. The employee said the controller spoke with United Airlines Flight 175 for quite some time after the terrorists took command of American Airlines Flight 11, the employee said. Many controllers also watched events unfold on the Nazi Control Center's television, but never expected Flight 175 to hit the Second World Trade Center tower because of that sustained contact with the crew, the employee said. After the first plane hit, nobody imagined it would happen again, the employee said. We all thought that it totally caught everybody off guard. It's not in anybody's mind they're hitting a target, the employee said. When somebody takes a plane over, they try to negotiate a release with money.
Thank you. John Jenkel, followed by Bill Christopher.
John Jenkel, the 9/11 bounty hunter. Because I do this, I've been doing this for 14 years, I am the most... Somebody laughing at that?
Yeah. Close to the room.
That's very rude.
You know, this is called democracy.
Very rude.
I have had 3 sections of my horse farm stolen by this county.
Wait, excuse me. Mr. Jenkel, why don't you continue with your comments?
Why don't you control the damn chamber, please, Your Honor?
They were going to be respectful. Thank you, Mr. Jenkel.
Because I bring this information public and hold you accountable, I am... Could you please ask the chamber to be quiet?
Mr. Jenkel, just continue with your comments. Go ahead.
It's okay for them to be rude. Is that all right with you? You want your chamber out of control, Your Honor?
We'd like to listen to what you had to say.
I'd like to say it without interruption. Now, because of my bringing this information, which nobody does anywhere in the world, to this body for 14 years, I have been arrested 17 times. My horse farm is now occupied by domestic enemies, and I get rude treatment by these people in the courtroom, in this chamber. It's all because none of them want to face the fact that this is controlled demolition. Those buildings will not collapse. Silverstein, as we reported, collect $4.7 billion from Terrorist Act insurance. It was all this Terrorist Act scam. It was all designed to distract what Ken Lay planned to do in the White House, and that was take out Energy czar Dick Cheney and his anti-Iran staff in Halliburton. But George Bush fouled up the plan because he left Laura Bush in the White House to face certain death. I'm the only guy who says that, and because of that, I am persecuted. But I'm getting even. I will get even with you or anybody who gets in my way, starting with this man, this letter here that goes to Mr. Huffman. He doesn't want me in his office. He doesn't want me talking to his people. If he doesn't issue an apology, he's going down. He's going down.
Thank you. Bill Christopherson, followed by Claudia something else, maybe.
Folks in home support, we would laugh at you.
Why do you guys always go first?
You're trash.
We didn't
Trash.
Excuse me, please be respectful to the speaker. Thank you. Bill, go ahead.
Good afternoon.